Omni-Man has never been afraid of anything. Until now. The sky above Chicago didn't crack, it surrendered. And the being floating down from the clouds? He wasn't from this universe. See, when Superman arrived in the Invincible universe, something happened that had never happened before in Viltrumite history. The air itself seemed to step aside. Out of respect, satellites lost him. Gravity bent toward him. And Omni-Man? He felt it before he saw it. A pressure. Ancient. Impossible. Like standing before a sun that could judge you. Now here's what you need to understand. This world, the Invincible universe, was used to heroes who bled, to gods who lied, to protectors who eventually chose conquest. Every single one of them. Superman didn't. And what happened next changed everything. When Mark Grayson looked up, beaten, bloody, barely holding on, he saw something impossible. A man calmly stopping a Viltrumite invasion fleet. With open hands. Not punches. Hands. Cities expected devastation. Instead, they got mercy. Armies prepared for war. Instead, they were told to stand down. And Omni-Man clenched his fists for the first time in years. Because this wasn't a hero he could break. This was a reminder of what Viltrum once feared, and what it could never control. The sky above Chicago was already burning when Superman arrived. Viltrumite ships hung low, angular and brutal, tearing clouds apart with shock waves as they descended. Sirens screamed across the city. Invincible was already there. Mark Grayson, blood on his lip, breathing hard, holding back a soldier twice his size, while three more circled like wolves. Buildings lay cracked and open, streets carved by bodies moving at impossible speeds. Then the light changed. Not brighter, calmer. A red and blue figure drifted down between the ships and the city, cape unmoving despite the chaos. He didn't announce himself. He didn't rush. He simply arrived, and the air itself seemed to stabilize, like the planet had taken a steady breath. Mark felt it instantly. The pressure, the certainty. The Viltrumites did too. One of them lunged first. A veteran, scars across his face. He hit Superman at full speed. A blow that should have turned mountains into dust. Instead it stopped, cleanly, caught in Superman's palm. No shockwave, no explosion, just a sound like a door gently closing. Superman looked at him, not angry, not impressed. Enough, he said. The Viltrumite roared and swung again. Superman moved once, barely visible, and the alien was suddenly embedded half a mile away in the side of a distant skyscraper, pinned there by nothing more than air pressure and precise control. Alive, conscious, unable to move. The rest hesitated. That pause cost them everything. Superman rose higher, positioning himself above the city, between Earth and the fleet. His eyes scanned the ships, calculating trajectories, power signatures, life signs. He exhaled slowly, then moved. He didn't destroy a single vessel. He disabled them. Engines froze. Gravity fields collapsed inward. Weapon systems locked themselves down, as if ashamed. One by one, the ships drifted, powerless, caught in invisible hands and lowered gently into Lake Michigan. Steam rising. Water undisturbed beyond ripples. Miles away, in a bunker, Cecil Stedman watched. Fingers tight around his coffee cup. Every sensor was screaming nonsense. Power outputs beyond measurement. Control without collateral. Absolute restraint. This is not a variable we planned for, Cecil muttered. Mark floated a short distance away, staring. He'd seen power before. His father was power. But this was different. This wasn't domination. This was stewardship. Superman turned toward him. "You're hurt," he said. Mark blinked. "Yeah, kinda comes with the job." Superman was beside him in an instant, hands glowing faintly red. Not with heat, but precision. Bones realigned, bruises faded. Internal bleeding sealed itself like it had never happened. Mark sucked in a breath. "Okay, that's wow." "You did well," Superman said. "You protected people. That matters." But before Mark could respond, the sky tore again. not with ships. With a familiar sonic boom, Omni-Man arrived like a missile, eyes already locked on the stranger. "Get away from my son." Nolan's voice was calm, but edged with steel. Superman turned slowly. They regarded each other in silence. Two beings built to rule skies, forged by dead worlds, carrying different conclusions from the same question of power. "I'm not here to take anything from him," Superman said, "or from this world." Nolan studied him, senses probing, instincts screaming warnings he hadn't felt in decades. This being wasn't just strong, he was anchored, like the planet itself had chosen him. "You stopped a Viltrumite fleet," Nolan said. "No one does that without an agenda." "My agenda is simple," Superman replied. "No one dies today." And then Nolan attacked. The impact finally cracked the sky. They vanished upward, colliding above the clouds. Blows trading faster than sound. Mountains would have fallen from strikes like these. Yet Superman redirected every force, every vector, bending the fight away from the planet below. Nolan noticed, adjusted, pushed harder. Superman still held back. When it ended, they hovered miles above Earth. Nolan restrained, not crushed, by hands that could have ended him but didn't. "You could have killed me," Nolan said, stunned. "Yes," Superman answered. "And you didn't." "No." "Why?" "Because power isn't proven by who you can destroy," Superman said. "It's proven by who you refuse to." He released Nolan. They hovered in silence. Below them, Earth turned peacefully, unaware how close it had come to annihilation, and how far it had just moved from it. Nolan looked away first. On the ground, Mark watched the two figures in the sky, his world shifting. For the first time, he saw a future where strength didn't mean inevitability, where being unstoppable didn't mean being alone. Cecil exhaled slowly in his bunker. "Yeah," he said, "we're gonna need a bigger contingency plan." And somewhere far beyond Earth, in the depths of Viltrumite space, alarms began to sound. Not of attack, but of retreat. A name was spreading. Not a conqueror, not a king, a protector. Earth didn't celebrate. It held its breath. Because what just happened, nobody could explain it. News networks looped the same impossible footage. Viltrumite ships lowered like toys into a lake. An unknown hero standing between the planet and extinction. Omni-Man himself, forced to disengage. Analysts argued. Generals panicked. Religions reworded prayers. And in a silent bunker beneath the Pentagon, Cecil Stedman rewound one moment again and again. The instant where Omni-Man stopped attacking. That had never happened before. But here's what really unsettled everyone. Superman remained visible. By choice. He didn't hide in orbit. Didn't vanish into myth. He helped rebuild, lifting collapsed bridges back into place. Straightening steel with fingers gentle enough not to crease it. Cameras followed him, but he never played to them. He spoke to firefighters. He carried the injured. He listened. That unnerved Cecil more than raw power ever could. Mark watched it all from a distance, torn between awe and confusion. He tried to imitate Superman's restraint on patrol, pulling punches, slowing down, talking first. It felt wrong at first, like fighting underwater. But the results were undeniable. Fewer casualties, fewer terrified faces. "You don't have to scare people to protect them," Superman told him during a quiet moment above the city. "Fear is easy. Trust takes work." Mark nodded, storing the words like armor. Nolan watched too, from orbit. He told Debbie he was on assignment, but the truth burned heavier. He replayed the fight in his mind. Every strike he'd thrown, every one that had been absorbed, redirected, forgiven. The stranger hadn't tried to dominate him, hadn't even tried to win. That shook him more than defeat ever could. Viltrumite doctrine was simple. Strength justified purpose. Conquest was mercy. Resistance was weakness. Nolan had lived that truth for centuries. Superman was living proof it might be a lie. Cecil finally made the call. They met in the open. Neutral ground. An empty desert turned temporary command center. No traps. No ambushes. just distance, and contingencies stacked so high they nearly broke probability. Superman arrived on foot. Cecil didn't miss that detail. "I don't trust you," Cecil said flatly. "I wouldn't expect you to," Superman replied. "You could take this planet in an afternoon." "Yes. And you haven't." "No." Silence stretched. "What are you?" Cecil asked. "A refugee," Superman said, "who decided not to make that everyone else's problem." That answer haunted Cecil long after the meeting ended. Elsewhere, Nolan confronted his son. "You were reckless," Nolan said. Mark bristled. "I was trying to do what he does." "That's the problem," Nolan snapped. "You're not him." Mark looked him straight in the eyes. "Maybe I don't want to be you either." The words landed harder than any punch. Nolan left without another word. In deep space, the Viltrumite High Command assessed losses. No ships destroyed, no soldiers killed. And yet the outcome was worse than a massacre. Earth had not been broken. Worse, Earth had been inspired. Reports detailed a single being who matched Viltrumite strength without sharing Viltrumite will. A warrior who refused execution. A protector who rejected conquest, even when it was effortless. "Send more," one commander demanded. "Send better," another replied. And beneath that debate lay an unspoken fear. If one such being existed, could there be more? On Earth, Mark trained with Superman, not in combat, in control. They flew at subsonic speeds on purpose, practiced catching falling objects without cracking them, simulated rescues where saving one life too fast meant losing 3 others. Superman corrected gently, never shaming, never lecturing. "You're strong," he told Mark, "but strength is just the volume knob. Wisdom chooses the song." Mark laughed despite himself. For the first time since learning the truth about Viltrum, Nolan felt something unfamiliar tightening in his chest as he watched from afar. Regret. Superman hadn't attacked his worldview. He'd made it obsolete, and Viltrum was beginning to notice. Earth was no longer just another world marked for assimilation. It was a question, one Nolan Grayson could no longer answer with certainty. Viltrum did not retreat out of fear. It retreated to calculate. And 3 weeks later, they made their move. Deep space sensors across the solar system went dark one by one. Not destroyed, not jammed, simply switched off. Like something moving through space didn't want to be observed. Cecil noticed the pattern immediately. Long-range telescopes followed next. Then satellites. Something was coming. Superman felt it before any alarm sounded. A pressure at the edge of the sun's gravity well. A distortion that wasn't mass or energy, but intent. He stood above Earth's atmosphere, arms folded, cape trailing like a warning flag, eyes fixed on the void. "They're not scouts," he said quietly. Mark hovered nearby. "How can you tell?" "They're not curious." Space tore open, not with portals, but with speed so extreme reality struggled to catch up. 5 figures slammed into real space simultaneously. Shock waves rippling across vacuum like thunder. Each wore Viltrumite insignia older than Nolan's bloodline. Veterans, purifiers, living extinction events. Cecil's screens lit red. "Those aren't soldiers," he muttered. "Those are endings." The Viltrumites didn't speak at first. They spread out, encircling Earth with practiced precision. One of them, taller, older, eyes dull with centuries of conquest, finally looked at Superman. "You interfere with destiny," the leader said. "Step aside." "No," Superman replied. The word was calm, absolute. They attacked together. And what happened next? The universe had no language for it. The first strike would have shattered a moon. Superman met it head-on, redirecting the force upward, letting the blast tear harmlessly through empty space. He moved continuously, never stopping, never overcommitting, catching wrists, turning momentum, folding impossible strength into controlled arcs that sent Viltrumites tumbling without breaking them. They adapted fast. They always did. 2 pinned his arms, while a third slammed him toward Earth at relativistic speed. Superman twisted mid-fall, spun, absorbed the impact across the planet's magnetic field. dispersing the energy so gently the surface registered it as a mild aurora. Mark joined the fight, despite Cecil screaming in his ear. He lasted 6 seconds. A single blow sent him spiraling, bones screaming, consciousness fading. He would have died if Superman hadn't been there, if a hand hadn't caught him, stabilized him, shielded him from vacuum and force alike. "Stay back," Superman said, not unkindly. "This isn't your weight to carry." "But it's my planet," Mark gasped. "So protect it by surviving," Superman replied. He placed Mark gently in low orbit, where Cecil's recovery team could extract him. Then Superman stopped holding back. Not in rage, in resolve. He moved faster than Viltrumite combat doctrine allowed for. Not recklessly, decisively. One by one, he isolated them, separated their formations, turned centuries of battlefield instinct against them. Every strike was precise, every counter calculated to disable without killing. That terrified them. Viltrumites understood brutality. They respected overwhelming force. But mercy wrapped in dominance? That was alien. The leader roared and charged, pushing power beyond safe limits, willing to tear himself apart if it meant victory. Superman met him, forehead to forehead, and spoke softly. "You don't have to do this." The Viltrumite screamed and struck anyway. Superman ended the fight with one motion, spinning, redirecting, slamming the leader into the sun's outer atmosphere, just long enough to drain his strength without burning him alive. He returned moments later, unconscious but breathing, cradled like a fallen soldier. The remaining Viltrumites hesitated. For the first time in recorded history, Nolan arrived then, bursting into the battlefield with fury and confusion burning behind his eyes. He saw the veterans he'd once revered floating defeated, saw Superman still standing, saw Earth untouched, and something in him fractured. "Stand down," Superman said to the Viltrumites. "This ends now." They didn't argue. They fled. Not routed, not destroyed, retreated. Cecil collapsed back into his chair, laughter bubbling out of pure disbelief. "We just watched Viltrum blink." On Earth, people felt it without knowing why. The tension lifted. The air seemed lighter. Birds returned to skies that had been empty for weeks. Nolan hovered beside Superman in silence. "You could have killed them all," Nolan finally said. "Yes. And you didn't." "No. Viltrum won't forget this," Nolan warned. "They'll come back stronger, meaner." Superman looked at Earth below. "So will we." Nolan stared at the planet. Not as an assignment, not as a battleground. For the first time in centuries, he didn't know which side of history he was standing on. Far away, Viltrum's high command received the report, not of defeat, of resistance, and of a being who made conquest irrelevant. Preparations began, not for war, for something far more dangerous: adaptation. Here's the thing nobody expected. Earth changed quietly. No banners, no speeches, just a gradual shift in how the planet breathed. Cities rebuilt faster than before, not because Superman did the work, though he helped, but because people believed rebuilding mattered. Rescue crews trained with new protocols Mark helped design. Military doctrines shifted from retaliation to prevention. Even Cecil noticed it. Fewer fires to put out, fewer desperate calls at 3 in the morning. Hope, it turned out, was contagious. Mark felt the change most intensely. Training with Superman wasn't about getting stronger anymore. It was about getting better. Controlled drills lasted hours. Precision rescues became exercises in patience. Superman pushed Mark to slow down when every instinct screamed to move faster. "You can save 100 people," Superman said once, holding a fractured bridge in place while Mark evacuated civilians. "Or you can save all of them. The difference is attention." Mark messed up. A lot. He crushed doors. He misjudged force. He hesitated when he shouldn't and rushed when he should have waited. But Superman never scolded him, never compared him to anyone else, especially not Omni-Man. That hurt more than criticism ever could. Nolan watched from a distance. always from a distance. He saw Mark come home bruised but smiling. Saw Debbie laugh more, sleep better. Saw news reports praising Invincible not as a weapon, but as a guardian. Each moment carved something raw into him. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Viltrumite children were raised to conquer or die. Weakness was culled. Mercy was a flaw bred out through generations of slaughter. Nolan had enforced that doctrine across worlds without hesitation. And now his son was learning a different truth, one Nolan couldn't unlearn. The breaking point came during a mission in South America, a collapsing dam. Thousands downstream, Mark and Superman arrived together. The solution seemed simple. Destroy the dam before it failed catastrophically. Mark raised his fist. Superman put a hand on his shoulder. "Look again," he said. Mark saw it then. The micro-fractures, the uneven pressure distribution, the trapped workers inside. Destruction would save the city, but kill dozens. So they didn't destroy it. They stabilized it, reinforced it molecule by molecule, evacuated the workers, redirected the river. It took longer. It was harder. Everyone lived. Mark hovered afterward, shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline. "My dad would have punched it." "Yes," Superman said, "and many would have died believing it was necessary." That night, Nolan confronted Superman, not as a warrior, as a father. They met in orbit, Earth glowing beneath them. "You're undoing everything I taught him," Nolan said. Superman met his gaze evenly. "I'm teaching him how to choose. Viltrum doesn't allow choice." "Then Viltrum is wrong." The words were simple. They landed like a hammer. Nolan's voice dropped. "You don't understand what happens to those who defy Viltrum." "I do," Superman replied. "I come from a world that died because it believed power meant control." Silence stretched between them. "For centuries," Nolan said quietly, "I believed mercy was a lie we told ourselves to sleep." Superman looked at Earth. "And yet you're still here, watching. That means some part of you already doubts that." Nolan didn't answer, because answering meant admitting the truth. The truth came sooner than he expected. Viltrum sent an ultimatum, not to Earth, to Nolan: return, submit, or be erased. Nolan read the message alone. No witnesses, no commands, just inevitability. He looked at Earth one last time, then crushed the communicator in his fist. For the first time in his life, Omni-Man didn't know what he was going to do. Mark felt it immediately, the tension, the shift in his father's presence. They argued, not with fists, but words sharp enough to wound. "You don't get to decide who I become," Mark said. "I'm trying to save you," Nolan shot back. "From what?" "Becoming like him." Mark pointed toward the sky, where Superman often watched from afar. "Because if that's the danger, good." The argument ended without resolution, but something had changed. Nolan didn't leave. In the following weeks, Superman noticed Nolan training, alone, obsessively, not to dominate, but to control, redirecting strikes, practicing restraint, failing, trying again. Redemption didn't arrive with a speech. It arrived with effort. Viltrum's shadow loomed closer every day. Scouts probed the edges of the system. Sleeper agents activated. Earth's calm was a fragile thing. But now it wasn't alone. Mark stood stronger, not just in muscle, but in certainty. Superman remained steadfast, an unyielding line drawn not in space, but in principle. And Nolan Grayson stood between two futures. One demanded obedience. The other demanded courage. For the first time in centuries, a Viltrumite hesitated, not out of fear, but out of hope. Viltrum came in silence. No warnings, no declarations, no dramatic arrival meant to intimidate. The fleet emerged at the edge of the solar system like a spreading shadow. Hundreds of signatures, all moving with a single purpose: erasure. Cecil didn't bother with contingency plans anymore. There were too many, too strong, too committed. He sent one message instead: they're here. Superman was already moving. He positioned himself between Earth and the incoming armada. Not flaring power, not posturing, just waiting. Mark arrived seconds later. Then Nolan, last, deliberate, carrying the weight of a decision centuries overdue. Viltrumite commanders broadcast on all frequencies. This world is claimed. Its defenders will submit or be exterminated. Superman answered alone. No. The fleet advanced. What followed wasn't a battle the universe had language for. Superman moved through the armada like a living constant, not striking ships apart, but ripping them from formation, folding their trajectories into harmless spirals, pinning entire squadrons in gravitational knots that left them intact but helpless. Viltrumites swarmed him, dozens at a time, and still he refused to kill, breaking weapons, disabling nervous systems, sealing muscles with impossible precision. Mark fought beside him, better than ever, controlled, focused, every strike deliberate, every rescue prioritized. He wasn't trying to prove himself anymore. He was protecting home. And then Nolan crossed the line. A Viltrumite executioner targeted Mark. One clean strike meant to end the bloodline. Nolan intercepted it without thinking, taking the blow meant for his son. He didn't counterattack. He restrained. The executioner stared at him in disbelief. "You betray Viltrum?" Nolan's answer shook the battlefield. "I choose my son." That was enough. Viltrum turned on him instantly. Superman saw it, felt the shift, and for the first time, he unleashed everything. Not rage, not hatred, finality. He moved faster than thought, separating Nolan from the swarm, shielding him, standing between him and a legacy of violence. "This ends," Superman said, voice carrying across space. Today, the Viltrumite High Command authorized extinction protocol. They failed to understand something fundamental. Superman wasn't defending Earth alone. He was defending an idea. The fight escalated beyond planets, beyond stars. Superman dragged the heart of the fleet away from populated space, absorbing attacks that could have sterilized systems, converting annihilation into momentum, momentum into containment. One by one, Viltrumite leaders fell, not dead, but broken, defeated, alive to witness the collapse of their certainty. The final commander faced Superman alone. "You could rule everything," the Viltrumite spat. "Why choose weakness?" Superman didn't hesitate, because strength that needs obedience is fear wearing armor. The commander charged. Superman ended the war with a single blow. Not lethal, but absolute. A strike that shattered command cohesion, severed psychic hierarchies, left the fleet directionless. Viltrum didn't retreat. It dissolved. Survivors fled in every direction, carrying stories that would rot the Empire from the inside. When it was over, Earth still stood. Nolan hovered beside his son, wounded but alive. Mark looked at him, emotions tangled, uncertain. "I don't know if I can forgive you," Mark said quietly. Nolan nodded. "I know. That doesn't mean I won't try." That was more mercy than Nolan deserved. Superman watched from a distance, saying nothing. In the weeks that followed, Viltrum collapsed into civil war. Worlds rebelled, bloodlines fractured. The myth of inevitable conquest died faster than any army ever had. Earth became something else entirely, not a fortress, a standard. Superman didn't stay forever. He never planned to. He knew when to step back. Before he left, he spoke to Mark one last time. "You don't need to be me," he said. "You just need to be better than yesterday." Mark smiled. "I can do that." Nolan watched Superman disappear into the stars, then looked at Earth, not as an assignment, not as a battleground, as home. The universe learned a lesson it would never forget. That absolute power, when guided by compassion, doesn't create tyrants. It creates guardians. And for the first time in its violent history, the Invincible universe chose